Welcome to the show.
Just in my glasses.
Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast. I'm Colie.
I'm Joy.
Hey, want to bring you into our world.
A whole new world.
Don't you dare close your eyes. Oh, man. So, what we want to start doing is sharing what we're calling Blake stories. Working title. If we come up with a better name or get sponsored, we'll definitely change the name of, these Blake stories.
The Boeing Blake story.
Yeah.
True story life.
But our producer Darvell, kind of challenged us. He said, you guys give a lot of tips and pointers and advice on life. He was like, how about you talk more about yourselves so people can have a little perspective of how you can talk about these things or why your opinion is credible.
Makes
we're
sense.
gonna Darvell's challenge
Take
to
you.
heart.
Yeah. We'll show you.
We'll show you,
Yeah.
sir.
Love Hardigan.
Love Hardigan Studios. Yeah. But we're gonna talk about a pretty serious topic, and we're gonna get specifically like how do you get a proper medical diagnosis, right? Especially as a Black person. So we're gonna tell the story of discovering my dad's cancer diagnosis. So as many of you know, we, Joy and I lived in Buffalo, and then we relocated back to Chicago in 2014. Part of the relocation, because Joy was a school teacher, she had to get here a little bit earlier than I did to get here for the start of the school year. So there was a little bit of gap. And during that gap, she got to live with both of my parents.
I never had a person eat a whole loaf of bread without my consent before, outside of my brother. And
Okay.
Colie's dad I did that, but it was a pleasure because he used to watch Project Runway with me every Friday.
And he probably had a lot to say.
He actually was quiet during Project Runway.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
But he ate a whole loaf of bread. I wanted you to feel like your childhood. You're welcome once again.
Like, what the hell?
So part of, again, relocating is things don't always line up, and sometimes you have to make some sacrifices until you can get to your permanent residence. So, Joy being the consummate family person she is, was willing to do that and live with my parents for a short time. Shortly thereafter, we found a nice apartment, and I think we were technically, were we in Kenwood or were we in Brownsville? I don't know.
Was that Grand Crossing?
Was that Grand Crossing?
I'm not certain.
I don't know. I think Grand Boulevard. I think Grand Crossing is a whole different neighborhood that's kind of scary. But
oh, maybe so. Yeah. Is it Grand Boulevard? It's something
Grand
like
Boulevard,
that.
Yeah, but had a nice spot. Moved in. And we were excited because we were going to have Chance Joseph, our first child.
Yeah, that's where he was born.
And that's where he was born, in Chicago, and that was our first house. And one of the things about my dad that some of you that know me know, and I have no problem sharing this, like, he was an alcoholic pretty much my whole life. So, I was raised by an alcoholic and have a lot of the impacts of that still impact me to this day. As you think about life, though, right? I think the ultimate thing was like, he hit rock bottom, halfway house, all of that stuff. But he got sober for 7 years, and him and my mom were living together, probably more cohabitating at that point, but making it work the best they could. And he cried when we told him that he was going to be a grandfather. My mom, she was happy, she was excited. And, one of the things that, we've talked about is the cost of childcare. And one of the things, first thing he said, like, I'll watch him, and if I need money along the way, I'll let you know, but I'll watch him. And we were like, cool, this could be a win-win.
I think we might have even offered the opportunity to him. It was because I think Chance was probably 6 months, and it was really hard to find childcare in Chicago, really hard.
And I think he was happy for the opportunity because he was quasi-retired, and I think whatever money that would bring, plus a chance for him, I'm not going to call it a redemption tour, but I think it was an opportunity for me to get closer with him. So he's watching, Joy and I are both working at this point because the maternity and paternity leave policies that are in place now did not exist
Hey,
just 10 years ago. Like, Joy got 8 weeks. I got no time.
I didn't get any. I did
You
get
got 8
weeks
weeks for having that's what a C-section.
Yeah.
Now fathers get 12 weeks now.
And it was like, and I couldn't.
There was a lot of rules and conditions. So she had to get back to work. And my dad starts watching Chance, and Joy comes home one day. She goes to pick him up, and then she comes home and said, "Hey, your dad had Chance and had all his dirty clothes in Chance's playpen, and just had Chance sitting in there with his dirty clothes." And I was like, "What?"
He had made a pile of dirty clothes, like a mountain, but I don't know, was he trying to make a bed? And Chance was like on the top of it, so it seemed like he had some intentionality in it, but it was just like, this is a no.
So just thought, I just thought, that's weird, and then Joy, like we established, she had lived with them for a little while, so she got to know my parents very well. So she kind of knew people's how they operate, how they speak, and their cadences, and all that other stuff. So she goes to pick Chance up again, and I don't recall exactly what happened, but it was something that was definitely off.
Yeah, I don't remember the second time,
but it was enough for me to say, "Hey, something's off. Let me talk to him." One thing too, anybody that had a chance to meet my dad, he was a talker. Like he's one of those dudes at a party. You're like, okay, how do I get out this conversation?
Yeah, like the first time I met Colie's dad, like he talked to me so long, and I literally fell asleep on the couch, and then I like woke up, and dude was still talking, going. And I felt like, man, I don't know if I'm making a good impression. Did he notice I fell asleep as he was talking? Because he like kept going. I don't even know what he was talking about.
And so it hit a point though where we were you're at events, he's not talking at all. I remember specifically.
It was I remember Chance's baptism.
It was Chance's baptism.
What was happening? He had back pain.
Correct.
That's what I remember. I remember he had like really, really severe back pain.
Yes.
And he couldn't. It was so bad that he was on all these painkillers. Because I remember we went to Aunt Monica's for the fondue, and he was on mad painkillers for that event.
Yes.
And then like for Chance's baptism, he just was like sitting on the couch, just saying like nothing. Like you could just tell he was like in pain.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and again, he got the painkillers, through actually going to doctors and ERs.
Yeah.
So they were legally prescribed. So it wasn't, again, his alcoholism or anything like that. It was like legit, like diagnosis or lack thereof. He was just getting like Vicodins and stuff like that. Yeah. To manage back pain. So this is going on for weeks at this point, because we get to Chance's baptism. And it's one of those, mountaintop events, in the early life of a kid. And again, my dad's there just quiet, not socializing with anybody. So he's like physically present, but not there.
Yeah.
And so, Joy and I start recognizing like he is off, and it's not this back pain. It's something way, way more than this. He was a diabetic. So I was like, well, if his sugars are off, and I know that can impact you. So maybe it's not the back pain is maybe caused by the sugars being off, which is doing this to like maybe I thought it was like his organs were being impacted by diabetes. That was my conclusion.
Did he have high blood pressure or no?
Not particularly. He wasn't taking blood pressure medicine, so it might have been high, but I don't think he was like medicated. I think the diabetes, and he wasn't become a diabetic until his 50s, so it was one of those type of things. So in general, good health, but like, all right, let's go to. I remember we went to University of Chicago. He made it through triage. The numbers came back. It was normal A1C blood pressure, and his insurance was kind of shitty, so. His whole mindset was like, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not like, it's not, he was like, well, it's not diabetes, so I don't want to wait to see a doctor, and they just give me more pain medicine.
And the part you're missing is your dad was a certified genius.
Yes.
So he was literally like a genius. Like,
correct.
So he knew, so it was like stuff he knew that he had his own like methods to doing stuff.
So after 4 hours, and he couldn't, he had low energy, all this other piece. He was just like, man, just take me home. I was like, man, I respect you for even going because, it's hard to get black men, especially older black men, to see a doctor. The fact that he was willing to do that and be compliant, I was, all right, man, we'll try
He was going
again.
through something, yeah.
He was going through something. It had to be bad enough. So round 2, and again, my memory is a little foggy. I think you took him. I think we tried Rush next, thinking that might get us in quicker. I believe you took him to Rush.
No, I didn't take him to Rush. I took him to that urgent because I went and dropped something. Yeah. I went and dropped something to him, and I was like, not to say this, but he looked like death. It just looked bad. Like he just looked really, really, really bad. And in hindsight, I didn't know he had multiple myeloma, which is dealing with his bones, but his legs looked like something was being, like the bone was like, it just like he didn't look right. And I remember I just was like, we're going to the urgent care. Like, I don't care what you say. Like, get in the car, we're going. And then we went to Concentra, and they were the ones who told us, yeah, we can't help. They knew something was wrong.
They knew something was wrong, but they couldn't take his insurance.
Oh, that's what it was. It was,
They wouldn't take his insurance to even do anything.
Yeah.
And I don't even think Concentra told us. I went to another urgent care, and I remember they had just said, hey, something's definitely off. Tell them about,
an urgent care was the one that told us to say you have chest pain.
Excuse me.
Because we were,
because we weren't getting any service.
We weren't getting any help.
Something was like gravely wrong. With him. So at that point, he was like, I don't want to go back to University of Chicago. I'll go to Mercy because that was the nearest one, and hopefully we can get something figured out. So we get to Mercy. He says he has chest pain, and then they start asking him questions, and he can't articulate anything. And I was like, listen, like, he's been very sick, for a while. Can we take him back? So I think at that point, I don't know if it's an MRI or CAT scan. I get the two mixed up sometime. But they start running some serious tests. So they do the full triage and check the diabetes. His numbers are within range for the diabetes. And they do all these tests, and this is another 3 or 4 hours, so we're waiting to get the results. I'm with him at this point. We're sitting in, so at this point, we're not in the waiting room. We're like, we have a bed, so we're waiting for the results to come in. So the doctor, she's an Indian lady, she comes in, and she starts speaking down to my dad like he's a little kid, like in a way that, like, I'm like, yo, this isn't cool. Because she clearly lumped him in with just another black man who wasn't managing his diabetes. And your
dad was a smoker. So
and he was a smoker.
Was, like,
so
she
just took all those pieces, judged the shit out of him. But the way she was talking, I stood up. I was like, you don't talk to him like, I verbatim said, you don't talk to him like that. He is not well. We're here to figure out what's wrong. Did you even check his numbers? His diabetes is controlled. And then she's like, well, we have to do an MRI to see if he's had a heart attack or if it's something. What other medicine is he taking? I'm like, well, he's been on these painkillers for back pain, but the pain isn't going away. She's like, well, let me see. I'm going to see if they've even run these tests, like doubting what I'm saying, because they're not used to seeing a black man raise up who can articulate their point without taking it to a 10, but just very firmly saying, you're out of pocket. Let's get back in pocket so we can figure out what's wrong. She leaves the room, and then I'll never forget this as long as I live. She comes back into the room. This woman who was a complete and utter completely unprofessional came back into this room with this like she had just seen a ghost. She's like ghost white. She has his paperwork in her head, and you can tell she's trying to build the strength to say something. And she was like, Mr. Blake, I'm sorry to tell you, you have multiple myeloma. I didn't even know what that was at the time. My dad did right away, and I've only seen my dad cry 3 times. Once, when Walter Payton died. Oh. 2, he had owed me some money for something, and and he knew he couldn't pay me back. And thirdly was when he got that myeloma diagnosis. And then when you see your dad cry like that over, I knew it wasn't good. And come to find out, multiple myeloma, it attacks your white blood cells. And what it does, and what it was doing to him at that particular moment in time, it was pulling the calcium off of his bones and having it entered the bloodstream, which eventually made it to his brain, which was affecting his mentation. So
yeah, 'cause I remember it was like we asked him like, when is your birthday? Or we asked him
all
like
of those
a
questions.
normal, and he couldn't like say. That's when we knew like something was wrong.
Yeah, because I think who was president then? So it had to be, was it? Oh, Obama was Obama still?
I think Obama was the president.
Obama was president, so this is what 20.
I know I felt at ease.
This is 2019.
Let's go with Obama.
No, it's 2019, so it might have been Trump's first term.
No, he came. I thought he came in 2020.
2020 to 20. No, Biden was 2020 to 2024.
I don't know.
So it might have been either way. He said it was Nixon. Or he said either it's Nixon or Lyndon Johnson. That was my dad's answer.
Oh no, yeah, it was
When
something
they asked
like
him, it was like, yo,
whoa.
I mean, like all these types of things. And again, not just, we're not saying he's a certified genius. Like he literally tested off the charts and everything. Like
he's
legit.
in the paper. Like you could look it up. Like,
it's like so for him not to know these basic questions, something is way, way off. It wasn't like. It was like all you know, like Alzheimer's or something like that just came out of nowhere. It was something off. So it was this calcium in his blood. So eventually, you know, they hooked him up to IVs for several days, and that basically like flushed the calcium out, and he was back to normal, right? You know, I think we'll do another episode so we can talk about, you know, his journey with cancer and multiple myeloma. But I want, you know, for this episode, and I know I'm doing a lot of the talking, but you know, we've had our good friend Asha Dickens come on here from October Lotus, and we talked about like women's womb health and how hard it is to get, you know, adequate health care, equitable health care as a Black woman. It is hard, like at a hospital, and I think we're all a little bit wiser after the United Healthcare CEO's death. I think these hospitals, their goal is to clear the bed. Right, they want to get you in and they want to get you out so they can get the next person in. Partially to help people to make sure you're healthy, but they want to get you in and out. They're not there to problem solve with you per se. Like they're there to identify a problem and give you something for that. And then if it doesn't work, they don't give a fuck about you waiting in that waiting room for 12 hours to come back to do it all over again. So it's on you to like understand all of the symptoms. It's on you kind of to go in there to, you know, have a couple hypotheses and really urge and push them to test for all of this stuff. I think, too, understanding your insurance coverage and what's possible is key in all of this. I think, you know, part of it, you know, we wanted to go through the ER because we know through my dad's insurance, emergency room visits were covered differently than like just going to see a doctor. So the preference was to go through an emergency room, and then everything would tail off of an emergency room stay. So that was like a strategic play. And then finally, you know, again, somebody comes in saying, you know, they have a bad back and, you know, their memory is foggy. They're not looking for cancer, right? I had never heard of multiple myeloma. And so if anybody tells me something, you know, these symptoms, like you kind of have to like type them all in and look at it. And the funny thing, I'll say funny, myeloma is a cancer that, you know, impacts African Americans disproportionately more than whites, you know. So, you know, it's one of those things that, again, a doctor, you know, an Indian woman, she's not necessarily thinking myeloma when she's seeing these symptoms. It took us, you know, this whole process probably took us a month to get to this diagnosis. It might have been longer to get to the diagnosis that we're talking about because it's not an easy thing. But, you know, as parents now with kids, like we're very particular about how we're going to care for them, like when they're sick and are in their time of need.
Yeah, because you really have to not only be your own advocate, but have other advocates. I know it's like and maybe during COVID, I think that helped us the most to realize how important it is to have like a health advocate, to have someone who is in the health field that you can like potentially call or bounce questions off or just talk to. Like it's okay to have that one friend that's a nurse that you can you can call and like reach out, like, and sometimes I mean they might enjoy like talking to you about it or whatever it may be, but I think primarily too, just thinking through when it's your parent, you have to have almost like a different approach because they still want to be independent, and you just have to think through like different strategies to like get them there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We got about 2 minutes left, Joy, in the show. So, I want to wrap up with one of our favorite signature segments, things we wish we would have known, to kind of round this one out. So something I wish I would have known, and I think, Joy, you already hit on it, is you have to be your own advocate. You have to have a level, but with the internet and Google and having these phones, like, you have to have a level of knowledge of, like, what your symptoms are, so you can, like, articulate them. And you have to have no shame, especially when some illnesses and diseases we bring on ourselves. Some illnesses and diseases, they just happen to us, right? No matter what, you can't have the shame or the pride of, like, going to see a doctor, going to the hospital to get fixed. Like, let pride, let ego, don't let ignorance stop you from, like, get into your best you. My dad was able to do it. We got, he had an amazing journey, like, once we found out about the myeloma, but I think it's like just getting to that was a bitch. So, just, don't let things, like, go see those doctors, man. Just go see those doctors and be your own advocate. I think it's something I wish I would have known.
Yeah, I mean, it's so brave of Colie to tell this story today. So I'm pretty proud of him. Oh, okay. And then two, I would say something I wish I would have known is, it's okay to, like, shop around. Like, if you got, like, if you kind of have, like, a bad feeling in your stomach about something, like, trust yourself. Yeah. Just because trust yourself. I won't say it like that, but it's true. Like, just because somebody went to medical school doesn't make them, like, a professional. It doesn't make them. Just think of all the bad apples, and there's a bad apple in every field. Like, so it's just a matter of, like for me, I have a doctor I go to. Like, I don't want to be like F insurance, but in a way, I'm like, I want to get the best health. I'm not gonna try to limit that by my fear of what the bill be, because I have like a doctor I go to that's holistic. I have a doctor I go to that's like, if I had a flu and I need an antibiotic. I have friends that go to do acupuncture. Mm-hmm. Massage is another healing thing. It's like a matter of, some people do, not colonoscopies, but they'll do, like, cleanses or whatever you need to do to, like, sometimes there's not just one right path. You kind of got to mix them together to find, like, where it works for you. But primarily 100%, like, if you got a bad feeling, like, I would say if anybody can learn from my story, like, one, we didn't give up. I mean, you heard how many different places we went to just to get to what we needed to get. And I just highly recommend, like, invest time, right? While you had a time, if you healthy right now, invest time in getting a primary care physician.
Absolutely.
Go, like, get the primary care physician. Go every year. Build that relationship, because once you go every year, like,
they have a benchmark. They have a baseline.
A whole thing. They remember, like, even with our kids, they've been going to the same doctor. Do we see him, like, once a year? Yeah, but he remembers, like, correct, because you build that relationship. So I think that would be a learning curve, because I remember your dad really didn't have, like, a primary care physician, and so that,
because he didn't want to pay the money, because of insurance, so he didn't have the money.
Yeah, it's like, but in the scheme, it's just hard. Like, it's hard. So if you don't like your doctor, shop around, just like you date us. Yeah,
and
shop
don't go
around.
For convenience. You can't, like, you might have to go to a doctor. My doctor is still 20 miles from the house.
Yeah,
and it's worth it though.
Yeah, it's worth it. Like, nothing's worth, like, feeling secure in your health, feeling like someone has your back. So. Yeah. So this is probably our heaviest episode, but we got some heavier ones ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Just gear up. Gear up. Darvell, what do you got to say now? Look at us. We did it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast. That's our show. We out.
Peace out.